Welcome back to Living with a Classic. I just fired up the old SAAB here. We're going to pull it into the workshop because it's time to do something about those really rusty rear brakes. Alright, so I'm all ready to go here. I've raised this side up, got a jack stand under there. Jack's still there for some safety. And I've already actually lubricated everything and just tried I can loosen it up. So really good news. It may look kind of rusty and crusty, but everything loosened up. I also checked the bleed nipple. Seems to be working. So good news all around. Over here we have a new brake disc and pads. Of course we're doing both sides, and luckily this was all pretty cheap, about $90 or so for both sides. So that is good news for the winter beater. And you know, it is a true winter beater. There's some rust, but structurally this car is good. I've seen a couple places with some welding, like this is not that strong, but there's some surface rust on that. So I'll probably clean that up and just rust treat that a little bit. Got a little bit of surface rust up here as well. So we're gonna just rust treat all the areas, not fully, but just make sure it doesn't get any worse. Cosmetics, I don't really care about that much, but structural rust is important. So I haven't done brakes on one of these before, but shouldn't be that difficult. Remove the caliper, remove the spring here for the parking brake, and yeah, I think it's that big screw there. This should come out, and yeah, we'll go from there. We'll see, maybe there are some other things, but should be pretty straightforward. One interesting design feature is the handbrake cable here. There's a bracket here held in place with a bolt for the caliper, which then tightens it. So when I loosened this a couple days ago with a breaker bar, just to make sure to get it off, this of course slackened back, but that's pretty interesting. Otherwise, pretty straightforward. I believe the rear brakes are the same as the Opel version of this car. At least when I ordered the parts, it fit the SAAB 900 and various Opels. So yeah, rear brakes and stuff, you know, should be pretty straightforward, but you never really know what you can come across. It could be things that are seized. So but so far things are pretty good. Previous owner has replaced the brake pipe here with a replacement copper pipe, which is a good thing. It's not going to rust. It probably had rusted before, but you gotta think this is a, what is it? It's a 96 car, so it's had quite a few years on the road and about 330,000 kilometers. So it's definitely not brand new. All right, let's lift that caliper off. Here's just a good little tip. Works on most cars. If you have a caliper and you're not really removing it, but just want to put it to the side, get some kind of bungee cord you can support somewhere. So either, you know, on the springs in the front or something. You don't want to support them by the brake pipe or the flexi hose. So I'm going to try and rig something on the top of the shock over here. And yeah, it should work. I just put one of the bolts back in so it wouldn't fall out. And there we go. And yeah, it's just a matter of figuring out what's going to work best. I think we're going to have to do it like this somehow. And yeah. Okay, that's pretty good. And I'm just going to, you know, move it down here and snap onto that spring. There we go. That's supported, not going anywhere. Now we can tackle getting the brake disc off. Honestly, I haven't actually checked a manual or anything for this. I usually do, but today I thought let's just go for it. So I may make some mistakes, but that'll be more fun. We'll learn together. So what I'm doing here is just finding a bit that fits. And I don't know how long this disc has been on there. The pads look pretty much new, but this car's been sitting for a bit. So we use an impact screwdriver to get that off. Let's see. think something's happening. There we go. And then it's different on different cars. Some cars you need to completely slacken off the parking brake mechanism. I've just disconnected in the back here. So you can see if this wants to play ball and come off, or if I need to slacken off the mechanism. So after shining around with a flashlight for a while, I finally found the adjuster. It's down here in the bottom. It'll be easier to show once it's all off, but I think it's pretty much all the way off. You just sort of bump it around with a screwdriver, but I think I'm pretty much, find the place again. I think it should be pretty much all there. So let's see if the brake disc comes off this time. Yeah, there we go. Alright, let's shine on down there so I can show you the handbrake adjuster, sort of how it works. But yeah, this is really a rusty disc just from sitting. This car is sitting for a long time outside, and yeah, it just wasn't savable. Easier to get a new one. But we'll have a look at that mechanism so I can actually remember which way I have to turn it to adjust it out again, and then it's time to put the new parts on. This is a little difficult to film, but you can see a small adjuster in there and a spring, and this is a hole that you can get through the brake drum, and you can twist it like this just with a screwdriver to wind it in. So let's see, up seems to be winding it out, and down seems to be winding it in. So I'll wind it back to where it was so I can get it all back together, and then when it's back on with new parts, I like to just adjust these out until they just barely drag, and the same on the both sides, and it's usually fine. They're self-adjusting too, so assuming that these, turn pretty freely, and you can use the handbrake a couple times, this will all adjust into place. But the good news is all the hardware in here looks nice, so don't need to bother with that. We just need to replace the disc and pads. It's actually a couple of days later, because right at the end of the last bit I was filming, I took the old brake disc and the new one, and I held them next to each other, and the new one was way bigger. So I did some research, and apparently there are early and late rear brakes on this car. So this is 1996, so up until about June or July 1996, they had the old style rear brakes, which are a little bit smaller, and later they had the new style. So yeah, I had to go back, get the correct ones. These are the right size now. So all I've done is clean it off a lot with brake clean, done the back and the front a little bit more. Because you always have to do that. They come oiled from the factory so they don't rust. But yeah, you just spray it down, wipe it off to get rid of any of that oil so that they will actually work. And the only other thing I've done is remove the old pads, which were in good shape. We'll of course be putting new pads in, but let's see, they were not that badly worn at all. So that's good. All the hardware feels pretty new. So it feels like it got rear brakes not that long ago. Maybe not the discs, but at least the pads and the handbrake shoes are pretty new. So now everything will be pretty new. So this is how I like to set the parking brake tension on this style of parking brake. So I've clicked it up just until I really can't move the disc, and then I'm going to back it off maybe 3 clicks or something. See if I can find the right place with a screwdriver. That's 1, 2, 3. And now it's spinning freely and should be fine with the parking brake on, but I will test that before, I lower this side down and do the other side, but I think that'll be fine. As long as you do the same on both sides, it should be pretty well adjusted. Now it's just time to put the caliper back on. Just the 2 bolts back there. Gotta remember that this is the top bolt that holds the spring for the parking brake. Got the last pad to go in here. I always like to put copper grease on the sliding surfaces, a little bit there on the back, just to hold things along a little bit, and they should slide in nice and freely. They're in place. Now I've got some hardware over here to put in, And then we're done. That's all done. I think it looks really good. Got the hardware all in here. It's all greased up, so everything should slide nice and freely. I also did test before I put the pads in. I engaged the parking brake, and then I could not move this. And now, I mean, it's a little stiff because of the pads, but you see, I think that's going to be fine. So I'm just going to do the other side now. I won't film it, it'll be exactly the same. And then I think it's time for a test drive. And then I got to book in a time to have the inspection place for MOT place test the rear brakes. So I've just been into the MOT station here. Sadly, I forgot a nice camera, but got my phone here, so it's just good enough. It's a pass. Brakes are good. Parking brake was good also. That was the only thing I was a little bit worried about. Sort of felt like I had to click it away, but I folded up and down a couple times and it's self-adjusting, so it seems to, he says the parking brake was great. So good news, we can keep driving the old SAAB. So this will be my sort of winter beater. So when it's really, really bad weather outside, I don't feel like taking out any of the other classics. I will be driving the trusty old SAAB. It's been a cold day today and the heater works really well. Just gotta fix one thing. It doesn't seem to get that much air out on the screen. So maybe that's something I can have a look at. But I got nice toasty feet and everything else. So heater works really well. I'll put the winter tires on this in a couple of weeks, and then we should be ready to go when we get snow and ice and all of that to go out and the trusty old SAAB. Anyways, I hope you guys liked this video, even though I don't do that much on the SAAB here on the channel. It's sort of an extra car. And I think it's good to have a beater around. Let me know if you have sort of a vehicle that you have as a bit of a beater. It'd be fun to hear what you have. And I think this car really deserves two things now. It deserves to get a radio, and it deserves to get a service and a little bit of a tune-up. So oil filter, spark plugs, and a fuel filter and air filter. And I think this thing should be good to go all winter. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. Until next time, I'm Adam, and this was Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.